Tyson Franklin, and this episode is just a small bonus episode I thought I'd put in midweek. And it's an important topic that I think this time of year, we're now early January, I think it's important to realize we've got a lot of conferences and events coming up through 2026. And I think it's really important to sit back and think a little bit more about preparing for conferences and events as they come up. Don't just keep working the way that you would normally work. I think there's a few things you can do. And by doing it, you will get so much more out of the conference. So the first thing is don't work to exhaustion before an event. Ideally, reduce the number of appointments scheduled leading up to it. So if you've got a really busy week and you are really tired before you get to the event, I don't think you're going to take as much in. So what you should do when you know you've got an event, and you should have plenty of time that you've planned this into your schedule, think about just the last couple of days, just reducing the number of patients a little bit. So when it gets to the end of the work week, you're not staying behind to get reports done. You're not completing patient notes. You're not tying up a lot of loose ends, because there's nothing worse than jumping on a plane to travel somewhere and you have burnt the candle at both ends and you were totally buggered. So first thing, consider just reducing the number of patients so you can get all the work done, orthotic adjustments, anything that need to get done, you can get that all done before you actually go away. So the second thing is when you're at the conference is be present. Don't leave throughout the day to answer phone calls from your clinic or from your office. You should be telling your team, hey, I'm going to the conference. It's Saturday, Sunday. It might be Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever it is. And tell them the conference starts at this time and it finishes at another time. So it might be 8:30 to 5:30. If that's the case, just tell them during that period of time, you will be unavailable. So do not bother calling me. I'm not going to be checking my emails, because you want to be present at the conference. And it's not just the talks that you may be listening to or the presentations, but in between the talks, you're going to be having conversations with other people. And that is really important. You don't want your phone constantly ringing, because every time you get distracted, that takes away from what it was that you were actually involved in. It might be somebody talking on stage. They're about to say a very important point and your phone starts to ring. You look down. If you then leave the room, that could have been a missed opportunity. So let your team know from 8:30 to 5:30, this is when the conference is on. I am not available. And I would say don't even tell them to ring you during the lunch break, because you never know. You might bump into someone that wants to have a coffee with you, and there's a fantastic opportunity to spend time with someone you may have just met. This could be a relationship you will have for years. So make sure nobody calls you during the conference itself. Now, the third thing is don't do other work while you're at the conference. Don't leave the room, set up your laptop and start doing work that can wait until you get back. I've seen this a lot of times where you'll be at a conference, you'll walk out, somebody's got the laptop at one of the coffee stations and they're typing. I'm not sure what they're typing, but whatever it is probably not as important as being present at the actual conference itself. So don't take work with you and be doing it in between the talks. Just make sure you are focused and you're there for a particular reason. The next thing I want to talk about is just when you go to a conference, consider spending an extra day. Don't just suddenly leave as soon as it finishes and go back home again. I always think if you spend one extra day, and it might be if you're staying in a nice motel, stay the extra day and just enjoy it. But it also gives you time to sit down, go through your notes, reflect on what you've learned, and actually put together a couple of takeaway points and a couple of action things that you are going to do as soon as you get back to work. The fifth thing is never leave an event early. If the event finishes at 5:30, say it's a 2-day event and it's 8:30 to 5:30 and might then be 8:30 to 3, don't leave early. Make sure you're there right till the end of the conference and don't be in a hurry to leave straight away. Because once again, the people who stay and hang around a little bit afterwards, some of the best conversations I've ever had at a conference have been, this will sound funny, you don't need to be having a drink either, but some of the best conversations are around the bar afterwards. And this ties in with what I just mentioned before about possibly staying an extra day. Because if the event finishes and you are then hanging around, a lot of the times, some of the main speakers are hanging around as well. Some of the event organizers are hanging around. You get to spend some time with them. These, once again, are relationships you may have for a lifetime. So don't be in a rush to get home. There's probably nothing that's super urgent that you need to get home for. Now, I know if you've got your partner's birthday or there's a wedding anniversary or it might be a kid's significant birthday, yes, those events are important and you may need to get home for them. But if that's not the case, if you're just getting home because you're feeling guilty, oh, I've been at work all week and this event has been over the weekend, I should get home so I can see my family. I understand that. But your family will appreciate it more if you actually come away from that conference with a task list of things that you're going to actually do. And then you're going to take action on them, implement it, and end up with a better business or become a better podiatrist because of it. They will thank you for that far more in the future than you rushing home. And then what are you going to do? You get home and you're tired because you burnt the candle at both ends the week leading up to it. You then were taking phone calls. You're at the event itself. You then finished that. You're really tired. You've rushed home. And what? You get home and you're tired and you're not giving them 100% either. Like I said, taking that extra day and then coming home casually and relaxed and then walking back into your home, a happy podiatrist is going to be a lot better for your family. The next thing is consider when an event is on, make sure that you arrive way ahead of schedule. So if the event was on a Tuesday, make sure you are there on the Monday. And the earlier you can get there on the Monday, the easier it is to get settled in. I don't believe you should arrive the day of an event where you may have caught an early morning flight. So you've had to get up super early. You may have been late the night before because you were finishing off patient notes and you're a little bit tired. You got up super early flight or early train. You've rushed to get the event and you walk in just as it's actually starting. I don't think that is the best way to prepare. So really consider getting there a little bit earlier. And if it's somewhere, if the event is in an area where you've never been before, maybe consider getting there an extra day before that so you can arrive, get checked in, maybe spend a day looking around at that particular city or area, and then you're extremely relaxed for the event itself. Okay, point number 7 is consider who's going to be at the event before you go. Particular speakers, it might be colleagues that you want to catch up with, it could be suppliers. Think about who's going to be there and reach out to them beforehand. I'll tell you right now, when I've spoken at events, when I've received emails or messages from people beforehand, just asking me questions or saying, hey, I'm really looking forward to catching up with you, I end up having better conversations with them than I do with a complete stranger who just walks up to me because they've already told me that they want to meet me at the event. So just consider that. If there's a speaker, connect with them on social media beforehand and have a bit of a conversation leading up to it. Not the day before, but it could be a couple of months out or a couple of weeks out. Make contact with them, especially suppliers and other colleagues. If you've got friends that you haven't seen for a while, let them know you're going to be there and maybe plan ahead that you might meet for breakfast or you might meet afterwards for dinner. The more you can prepare to actually meet these people, the more you will actually get and be able to fit in that short time frame. Okay, the next point I want to share, this might seem a little bit odd, but consider what you're going to write with when you're at the event. I actually have my favorite pen or type of pen that I take. It's a very fine tip ink pen and it takes fantastic notes. But the other thing I do, I also take different colored pens. I have a red pen, green, blue. I have a highlighter because when I'm taking notes, if something has really stood out, I'll put like a red asterisk next to it because I want to make sure that I remember that part. But later too, when I'm back in the motel room that night, I will reflect over my notes and I'll use different colored pens, probably a green pen that I'll write something with. And green means that this is something I probably want to take action on. When I go back and reflect over my notes later on that extra day that I spend, that I stay behind, when I'm reading through everything, the color coding helps me follow what was important and what is something that I may want to work on in the future. So remember that. Take your favorite pens, the things you like writing with, takes a lot of strain off your wrist as well. Don't rely on the pens that they're going to provide at the event because sometimes they are a little bit dodgy. And think about different colors and also highlighters. You'll get a lot more from your notes afterwards when you're reading back through them. When the event concludes, I think, like I mentioned, you should spend a day afterwards to reflect on everything. But I think when you get back to work too, before you've even gone to the conference, block out some critical thinking time that you know that you're going to get some time in your diary when you get back to work where you can really think about the notes that you've covered. Now, like I said, on that day that you took off to reflect on your notes, this is slightly different. This is then looking at those main tasks that you want to do and planning it into your schedule. When are you going to get these things done? And I think if you don't block time out in your schedule when you get back, you may not actually take action. So it's really important to do. And another question that I think you should always ask yourself, this is a good critical thinking question. If you went to the event again, what would you do differently? And this is something that I do all the time. Every event I go to, I will sit down afterwards and go, okay, if I went to that event again, what would I do differently? Who do I wish I had spoken to? What supplier did I say I wanted to talk to, but I didn't talk to them for whatever reason? Who was one of my colleagues or friends that I wanted to catch up with, but for some reason I didn't? And it's not just that I didn't catch up with them. Why didn't I catch up with them? And if you can work through this process, you'll find, and you write those answers down in your notepad, in your brain book, when you're going to the next event, you can reflect on that. And if you keep doing that all the time, you keep repeating that process, what could I have done better if I was going to this conference again? You find every time you go to a conference, you end up getting more out of the conference every single time. And the last thing I want to share, point number 10, is this thing called focus, friction, and reflection. When you're going to learn something, you really need to be focused on what you're learning. So if somebody's talking from stage and you really are paying attention to what they're doing, you need to be focused on that conversation. And the friction part is pretty much when you're learning something, you have to then start applying it. And when you start applying it, it's not always going to be difficult. That's what the friction is all about. If everything you learned was really easy to do straight afterwards, then it's not really that hard, is it? So you focus first to learn something. Then there's that little bit of friction because you've got to then implement it and see how it works and make adjustments. But the interesting part is while you're doing something, trying out a new task, it might have been a new technique that you saw at a conference, and then you're going back to your clinic to apply that with the patient. After you do it, you need to block out, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, just to reflect on what you just did or what you've just applied and take that on board. What you don't want to do is when you see something, try doing it, is straight afterwards grabbing your phone and jumping onto Facebook. Because what happens is your subconscious what you just learned needs to percolate in your mind. And while it's percolating, your brain is figuring out mistakes you made and what not to do again, what went well, and to make sure that you do that right the next time. If you learn something and jump straight onto your phone and occupy your brain with something else, it doesn't get that time to actually go through that process. When I do my talk this year at the Foot and Ankle Show, the title of my talk is actually Skills Transference and How to Learn Everything Faster. And I'm going to be talking about this and digging into it a lot deeper during my 40-minute presentation. So if you're going to be at the Foot and Ankle Show, make sure you block it out in your schedule to come along and see my talk. And the other thing I will be doing the day before the Foot and Ankle Show is my podiatry marketing masterclass. And you might think you're good at marketing already. And I think that is fantastic. If you already think you're pretty good at marketing, that is a bonus. You may be no good at marketing, or you may have just a few ideas. You may be somewhere in between. The advantage of coming along to something like my marketing class is when we go through the whole process of the day, there will be things that you will take away from that will make you better. So no matter how good you are now, you will come away far better for attending that masterclass. If you know nothing, I tell you right now, it's going to tick so many boxes for you. So if you've got the time, come along to my podiatry marketing masterclass. Well, I hope you got something from this information that I've provided today. Like I said, this is just a little bonus episode to help you get more out of conferences and events in 2026. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. My email address is tf@tysonfranklin.com. You go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, if you want to learn anything about what I do, my workshops, my masterclasses, the type of coaching that I provide, even on-site training sessions that I run with particular clinics and their teams. And don't forget to go and check out the podiatrylegends.com website. That's where the show notes will be and a bit of a review of what I've just spoken about today. Okay, hope you got something from that, and I will talk to you again very soon. Bye.